welcome to the Fundamentals of Investing. Here today we have Jameel Spencer and Brian Kirkland with us. Jameel Spencer is the founder and CEO of Rightful Place Agency and has built businesses with Sean Diddy, Jay-Z, Carter, and Justin Timberlake. And he's a father, husband, and pioneer of his community. And Brian Kirkland has also worked with the likes of Sean Diddy and a multitude of other artists. Mr. Kirkland has over 20 plus years of experience in the music industry and is a father, husband, and trailblazer in the industry today. And I'm Xavier Donaldson. I'm 15 years old. I attend a private school in West Orange, New Jersey, and I enjoy running track and field.
Hi, my name is Ryan. Oh, sorry.
You're good.
Sorry. Hi, my name is Ryan Farley. I'm 16 years old. I go to a performing arts school in New York, and I'm an actress.
Hi, I'm Ryan Hobby. I'm 15 years old. I go to a public school in New Jersey, and I'm an actor.
All right.
Okay. Given all that has transpired over the last few days, I wanted to address some of these current issues and then get back to the task at hand. So, with the recent shooting of Mr. Jacob Blake in Wisconsin, where do you see this country in the future, and how do you prepare for our youth?
I'll go first, Byron. Listen, I think that it's really interesting because this is not a new thing, right? We've been getting murdered, and let's use the right word, murdered by police officers for years. And the reality is, not until recently has it become a part of the public conversation. And I think that's really because of a number of things. I think it's, everyone's stuck at home. I think it's also the advent of the cell phone. And so these things are now being documented. But the reality is that this country has been built on a foundation of hatred and negativity. And as a result, we have been persecuted for 400 years. Now, what's different this time is now we are starting to realize our collective power as a community. So when you see the NBA players decide not to play the playoff games, and then a bunch of other leagues follow along in solidarity, when you see young white people in the streets wearing Black Lives Matter and protesting against these atrocities that have happened to us. The reality is that not until white people start being offended by what's been happening to us will it ever change. And that's, unless we're willing to just go with a full revolution, it's going to take white people to get involved and be a part of the change. I think that your generation is at the forefront of the change. So, me and Byron's generation, we're sort of like the go-between. So you got, the older generation, our parents, who were part of the previous civil rights movement that gave us a lot of the rights that we currently enjoy today. But they went through a whole different journey, and there was a lot more hatred. We had a similar experience, but it was a little bit better than theirs. What you guys have the opportunity to do is powerful and game changing. You guys have young white folks who consider you guys as friends, who look up to you, they admire all of the entertainment content that we put out in the world. So all of the artists and the athletes and the actors. And so I think there's a different appreciation for our culture within your generation. And it's really, our job to arm you guys with the tools, the access and information to be a part of the change. And it's going to be your job to drive it. And so the question really is a better question for you guys, quite honestly. Like, we've seen this movie before. We lived in this movie. I don't know a lot of Black men who haven't had an adverse relationship or experience with the police. Not to say that all police officers are bad, but there is something around how the police officers are being trained that makes it okay to kill us. And what my fear is, as a dad, as a father of 5 Black boys, and I have 1 daughter, that it scares me to send you guys out into that world. But we got to make sure we arm you with the information. And so I remain optimistic. But we will continuously be reminded of the pandemic, the original pandemic that has plagued this country for 400 years. Slavery is the original pandemic. This is something that is so deeply entrenched in the fabric of this country that people aren't even aware of it. Like the fact that people are now being outraged, white folks, right now for the first time, or maybe not a second time, or the third time, whether it be Ahmaud Arbery or George Floyd, or now Jacob Blake, right? It's kind of insane that they're really just sort of figuring this thing out when it's been happening forever. And so I remain optimistic. I realize that my job as a parent and as an older statesman in our culture, and someone who has access and the ability to make impact, my job is really to arm you guys. And that's why I showed up here today to have this conversation with you guys, because you guys are literally the future. Literally and figuratively, you guys are the future. So it's really going to be what you're capable of doing in terms of being the change that the world needs that's going to really make it happen. We all we can do is point you in the right direction, but all the work's going to be done by you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. To add to what he's saying is very true. That I think I'll say now the first time that I've been optimistic towards change. I think that historically, when you saw folks on the front line, yes, they might have been a few white folks sprinkled in the protests, in the 60s, in our generation, we had the Yusuf Hawkins, things that happened in New York City where it was very prevalent that, the brutality of police against us was alarming. I remember protesting at that time, and you would see fire trucks, dogs. I mean, they were prepared to attack us, again, for standing up for our rights. Now, again, with the advent of cell phone cameras, everybody's able to see the atrocities committed against us. I mean, they knew about the atrocity, but now it's so in your face. And I think the pandemic helped highlight everybody's attention to it, because everybody was captive in home and can see it and weren't distracted by their normal, routine. I think that if this happened again at a time where people were at work, people would still be outraged, but it wouldn't be the same sense of focus. I think that because there was nothing else to see on TV other than these atrocities committed by the police against us. And, there's no distraction of, having to go to work or whatever your scheduled programming was. You were laser focused on this, that people feel the need to actually react. I think it's great that we see, corporate America also, wanting to monetarily contribute towards it. But I think that, these are all great, good acts. But I think, it's going to take your generation to take these acts and turn them into action. And, it's encouraging to see, again, a multitude of races come together. I think that through what our generation has done culturally, through music and entertainment, to kind of create a breakthrough where, I would say historically, white folks have been entertained, and loved us, but never really felt any compassion amongst in our home. My great grandmother, worked, as a maid essentially in white folks' homes, and she was good enough to take care of the kids. But when it came to giving her, equal, fair pay, or making sure that she was straight and had some sort of pension for taking care of their home, that didn't exist. And I think now, our generation's done a great job of, having access, income access. I think the information access, and again, we're weaponizing you guys with that information to act and learn from what we've experienced, again, to really help change the landscape of what will happen, in years to come.
Yes, I completely agree. I think we're so blessed to live in this age with the internet where we have so much access. We can just look up, if we want to look up, old protests or whatever it is, or we want to read books about it, we can do that so easily. So our generation really, we're stepping up and we're being activists, and everyone, all of my white friends and even non-Black people of color, they're coming to me, they're asking me about my experiences, and they want to listen to me and they want to hear, because they haven't realized really until now that the privilege that they have of not having to worry about, your family or yourself every time you go outside. They're understanding that and they're making the effort now. And I'm really glad to see that in this generation.
And before this pandemic, I noticed that like a lot of people didn't realize what being racist would be. Like they would do something, it would be racist, and they wouldn't realize it. They wouldn't know anything about like Black culture or Black history on like and what we went through. They knew like slavery and the civil rights movement, but that's it. Only the things that they taught you in elementary school. And now they're coming to like realize what we actually went through. And now they're experiencing like Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd. They realize that we still are struggling in America, and like we've never actually had justice. We've had glimpses of justice, but we've never really had real American justice like that most Americans have.
Amen. No, it's a testament to something really evil. But the reality is that the same way we have to be mindful of the future, we're trying to help you guys realize, and maybe your children and your children's children. It's the same way that, you know, when Napoleon, when the French went to Egypt and saw the pyramids and saw these amazing, this amazing engineering that in their mind, they couldn't even understand how this thing was built. So they saw fit, shoot the nose off the Pharaoh's face so that you could not realize that it was a Black man. Or the same way that they tell you that Jesus is white, right? These are all part of the marketing plan. So it's not even their fault, right? The privilege is so entrenched into it every day. I literally had a conversation with a woman that I work with, and I told her that she was privileged, and she was offended. She was like, "If you think I'm privileged, you don't understand me." And I was like, "The fact that you're privileged is undeniable. But the reality is that they did such a good job of brainwashing you, you don't even notice it. That's the best marketing ever."
Absolutely. I remember there's a sister I saw on Instagram when she mentioned, I thought it was a great reference. She said that, you know, they played Monopoly. You know, we played Monopoly on the board for 400 years, you know, or for 200 of those years without collecting any money, without collecting any rent. You know, we work for free essentially. And so, you know, other families have had the opportunity to have homes, generations pass wealth down. So, you know, I'm the second generation to graduate from college in my family, right? This is a privilege that they had. You know, my grandparents could have had the scholastic aptitude to do so, but you know, they had to earn a living. So they wound up either going to the service or or leaving college early in order to be employed, in order to to pay the mortgage and provide a better opportunity for my father, which in terms, my challenge again is to do, each generation challenge is to do better than the last. And I think we've done an amazing job in terms of elevating our families. And I think that this also needs to happen, for you guys to see that there are injustices. I was concerned that because we've done such a great job in terms of really shielding our kids from some of the realities out there, that they can go out there and, although we teach them about blackness, teach them that you have to be, at least 3 times better just to be on the same playing field, right? And, I told my daughter this, and she would listen and try to comprehend it, right? But, her reality is so good that, she has, friends from all types of backgrounds where she thinks that, at one time I think she thought that it was the same. But then when you see how different it is, when you see things happen and you see how your friends' opinions are totally different than yours, and their reality is totally different than yours, then you're able to really see that the things that, that my mother told me that I'm telling her are a real thing, that you have to apply it. And you can't get lost in, in the entertainment, in the TikTok world, and in social media, thinking that everything is great, because, it's really, I would have cursed, it's really not great. And we have to work towards continuing to improve our conditions and making sure that she, again, recognizes the challenge to do better than what I've done for her. And so I think, having these adversities, happen, wake my daughter up and waking you guys up to know that, listen, there's still a lot of work to do.
So, Mr. Spencer, can you tell us about Rightful Place Agency and how your business will inspire our youth and community to want, to start our own businesses of their own?
Absolutely, man. It's why I started it. So I have been in the brand, entertainment, fashion space for the better part of 25 years, and I've helped a lot of people that you know very well make a lot of money. And I would.
You helped me too.
And so, as I looked at my experiences and actually my ecosystem, right, my network. Byron, he's making a joke, but it's real. Like we build each other up. Like we have the most amazing community of people who are all your parents, by the way. All your parents are in the ecosystem. And what I realized that every major cultural phenomenon that's happened over the last 20 years has been driven by somebody that I know or is at least one phone call away. We have a thread that we talk all type of stuff on, but if you go on that thread and ask how to get to something, somebody's gonna have an answer to it. And so I felt like that was extremely invaluable. And more importantly, I wanted to be an example of ownership, right? I think that, that's the biggest delta that we have as a people. We have for centuries helped a lot of different communities make money, whether it be in the fashion or entertainment or whatever it is. We're really, really good at having a job and following the rules. And that dynamic won't change until we start to own our own culture, right? And so there's always somebody that's making, 2, 3, 4, 5 times more than we're making. And the reality is that the large majority of us have done really, really well for ourselves. But again, there's still somebody that owns that organization that's doing better. And if I want to do better, and I want to teach my kids to do better, because so we came from a generation of figure it out, right? There's nothing that we're doing that our parents showed us how to do. They may have given us the opportunity to go to school and learn or meet people and network, but this whole thing was something that we created and figured out on our own. And so as a result, the generation that we're raising behind us, you guys are the access and information era, right? That's your generation. You guys have access to the best schools. You have, you probably don't do a lot of chores at home. And by the way, I'm not a big fan of chores at home because honestly, I want to teach my kids to be able to make enough money for somebody else to do those things for them. That's the assignment, right? I want them to learn. Now, yeah, you got to do some stuff around here because then you're not really appreciating all that goes into it. But the reality is, like, what I want to hand down to my children is something that gives them the ability to do exactly what Byron said. It's every generation's job to do better than the generation before, but also to empower the next generation after to do better than us. And so if I'm giving you all the tools to do better than me, then I'm doing my job. And so Rightful Place, quite interestingly, is a business that is focused on helping companies, brands, personalities unlock unexploited revenue potential. So, and I think the simplest way to communicate it is going from instinct to intention. Instinct is what we do naturally. I'm really good at running track. I'm really good at math. I'm really good at, right? And so you do those things and whatever comes to you as a result of being good at that is great. But what if you were intentional around taking that and turning it to even more? So I think a basic example of it would be, Essence is one of my clients. Essence is a 50-year-old media company that is basically the Bible to Black women. You imagine if you're the Bible to Black women, a lot of fashion brands have been promoted within the pages of Essence, but those same fashion brands have not invested back into Essence. They don't even buy advertising because why buy advertising when they're giving it to me for free? They put Gucci and Prada and those brands in the magazine every month for free. Why would I ever show up and pay them money? Now, they don't have that same approach towards Vogue. They don't feel that same way about Elle, right? Because those things, you got to pay for that. But, like with us, like Byron told you earlier, like, we've been playing Monopoly. We haven't been collecting the money. We've been creating culture. We haven't owned any of it. And so I created a thing called Fashion House, which was positioned to create an experience for Black designers and Black creatives in the fashion space. And as a result, I was able to partner with Gucci as the first sponsor of the fashion house that we did in New Orleans at Essence Festival. By the way, Essence Festival is the biggest festival in the United States. So people will tell you about Coachella. They'll tell you about all these other things that happen. You know, Coachella has probably on a good year 200,000 people come each day over 3 days. Essence Festival has 550,000 people come, but people pay more money to sponsor Coachella than they do for Essence because we never get our fair share. And so I created Rightful Place, and Rightful Place is spelled WRITEFUL, so it's sort of a double entendre in terms of, you know, writing a narrative to help you take your right place in the universe. And that's what it was all about. It was me personally taking my rightful place in the universe, knowing that I had helped impact some of the biggest names in the world and help them become who they are, and realizing that it was time for me to do that same thing for me and mine. And I think that what's happening now today makes me more intentional around extending that network outside of my own family and my own ecosystem, and just touching, you know, brown young people of color any way I can. And so, you know, that's what Rightful Place is.
That's amazing.
Definitely needs something like that nowadays.
And by the way, it's my intention to only hire people of color, young Black people to work with me. I only work with Black companies, by the way. So I make sure I stay on the pulse of all the best and brightest Black companies there are out there. You know, I don't have a bunch of employees, so I outsource a lot of the work, and I outsource it all super intentional to people of color. That's my job. It's my job from here on out to keep the money. And I learned that from my brothers and sisters in the Jewish community. You know, in the fashion space, the Jewish community is very prevalent in terms of owning equity, but they're super intentional around only working with other people that are Jewish. Now they definitely leverage the impact and the excitement of Black folks for the creative. So you'll see, you know, a lot of Black creatives at these companies. You'll see a lot of Black talent being helped promote. Like, just think about a company like Nike, right? You know, LeBron James, all the biggest athletes at Nike are all Black. But there are not a lot of ain't no Black people really own Nike. Ain't no Black people of power in power positions at Nike. And I think that's changing. Because I think that now, because of the internet and all that's happened, you know, there's and cancel culture, I think that we are holding these brands accountable and demanding that we have our rightful seat at the table, that we as a people take our rightful place.
That's awesome. And to add to that, you know, in terms of what I do now I focus on management. So I manage talent. The majority of talent I work with are young Black men. Although I did work with Machine Gun Kelly, who's a young white man, but he recognizes, you know, our contributions. And I would say that, you know, in working with young Black men, I think, you know, like Jameel said, we come from the figure it out generation. So in a figure out generation without being given any information, right? And so my job in working with my clients is really teaching them the importance of ownership, knowing that them as an entertainer, they're an IP, they're an asset, they are a business, and helping them build businesses that they own or that we co-own, so that when the lights and cameras are off, that they still have something tangible, a business they own that they can still profit off of. And I think that's something that, you know, wasn't taught to us. I think that, you know, and not to discredit our parents. I think our parents knew what they knew, and so they knew, you know, you go to college, get a degree, you know, maybe get your master's and go out and get a job. Whereas we felt like our contributions, we see what we're doing in terms of building companies, you know, we need to have ownership. You know, that way we have something we can pass down, that we can sell if need be, in order to really to create some real revenue and some real opportunities for our clients and our families. And I think ownership is key. And I think that's one thing that I love about this generation, is that you guys kind of recognize, you know, the power of ownership, but also, you know, from a creative standpoint, they're even able to capitalize on their creativity and not just be, you know, the entertainment, but be the asset of the entertainment and own their own IP as part of it. I think, you know, whether it be doing deals with companies, you know, a lot of times we want to make sure we're getting some equity within these companies, and we're tired of being paid just to promote. You know, we recognize our value, and, you know, we need to be included on the boards of these companies that we go out there and support. And so one thing that key phrase that I use right now is I can't have an illusion of inclusion. You're not going to leverage myself or any of my clients to act like, you're, supporting the Black cause without us having some equal opportunity to own a portion of what we're producing. And so, inclusion is important. Ownership is more important.
By the way, I'm stealing that. Illusion of inclusion. I like that.
Yeah, like
No, that's everywhere. I see brands on Instagram all the time. They just put a bunch of Black employees in the picture and they're like, diverse, hashtag diversity, hashtag Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, that's true, but are they working? Are they making some decisions that actually, impact anything?
Yeah, those companies need to ask, who's on the board, who is in senior level positions at the company, and you start to see it now, which is great. You're starting to see folks get promoted as a result. And listen, I'll take it. Give me mine. But we also have to, take advantage of these opportunities. And like what Jameel's doing is to make sure he's intentional about the different people he's hiring, different people he's doing business with, and making sure that they all look like you, right? I also worked in fashion, and I did learn, in the Jewish community, even if they don't like each other, right? The money's staying within the community. So it's important because they have Jewish banks, so they're getting their money from Jewish banks. They're doing deals with other Jewish, partners, and the money's circulating within the community. And we have to recognize that and learn from that and adapt that and apply that to our own community. Making sure that we're really intentional about, shopping, in other Black companies, investing in new young talent that we can kind of create and mold. They may not have all the skill set, let's say, or arguably, but we train them, and spend our time. And, a lot of times, I'll go to a restaurant, a Black-owned restaurant, somebody say, this was whack. I didn't like the, in my neighborhood, there's like a health spot, and my daughter was like, like the acai bowl's better at what's the name, Playa bowl. I'm like, what do you like better? And she's like, well, they put more Nutella, so we're gonna go to the Black-owned spot and you tell them how to make it the way you like it, so that they can learn, right? And they can be better, versus just canceling the company altogether because they didn't make it to your specifications, right? So we have to be patient and help each other. Like I said, it's very important that we do so. And in cancel culture, we can't cancel each other. We got to raise each other, and we have to be, the key word is Jameel, is intentional. We have to be intentional about our actions as part of it, and be careful in terms of how we even generalize certain things. You have friends that, you're doing, I hate to say like nigga business. I don't ever say that. I'll never refer to anything that is negative as Black. There's always things to be improved upon, but and it's all from not having the access. So it's about, again, helping those companies or those individuals who need the help. But I'll never refer or talk down upon any other brown business or brown executive. It's about really uplifting and giving and helping them stay in position so they can get it right if they're not getting it right.
I agree. I feel like in the Black community, everyone's pride is really big and you want to be the one to succeed. But I think what we have to realize is that we should want everyone to succeed. We should want all Black people to be lifted up, and we should all want to be successful, because right now in the media, we're divided. And, some of us are coming together, but others we're like kind of pushed to the side. We don't really want to be involved with that. We don't want to be seen as, ghetto or angry Black people or whatever the case may be. But we all have to come together, and we all have to realize that we're all on the same side. We shouldn't be fighting each other. We shouldn't be divided. And like you guys said, in fashion, I'm like a huge fashion person. I love fashion. I'm always trying to find new places to shop. I used to shop at, a lot of the big teenage girl fashion companies. But now I go on those websites and I see maybe there's some specific shirt I want, and I'll go to another Black-owned website by, a Black person, and I'll try to see if I can find something similar, because I'm realizing now that I have to support because I haven't been.
Right. They did a number on us in terms of division, whether it be, I'm Jamaican, I'm not African American, or I'm from here, right? There's so many different divisive tactics. They're all done by design, right? Because people, tribalism is big within culture, right? But at the end of the day, you may belong to a different team. If you say I'm Jamaican, I'm from Trinidad, but you all play for the NBA, so that's black, and we're all, we have to recognize that, we are all one, and regardless of who you identify with, the biggest defining moment that we all come from the same place, and so we can't allow the divisive tactics to pull us apart. When they're saying Black Lives Matter, that's all brown people, and it's important that people recognize that and not allow individual tribalism to affect the greater good and a greater cause. That's the true ideal.
That's one of the biggest tricks of all time, is that they convinced us that we're minorities, and the reality is that there are more black and brown people around the world than any other culture. But again, like Byron said, yeah, I'm Dominican, I'm Haitian. I actually had an argument with a brother one time. He told me I wasn't African because he was from like Nigeria. He's like, nah, you're African American. I was like, no, I'm an African in America. But I'm definitely not. I'm an African, and not until we see ourselves as one collective people will we ever truly, enjoy the collective power that we are. I mean, we are the most powerful, regal people historically. If you go back in history, right, we were kings and queens, and we are the creators of culture. The culture began in Africa. And I could go further and make it uncomfortable. Like you want to make a white person uncomfortable, suggest to them that Jesus was black. That it's the conversation gets quickly uncomfortable. But let's be clear, they gave you that visual because they don't want you to believe in the fact that that could be a black man, that could be an African man. But be clear, if you read the scriptures, it's clear. It says that he had woolly hair and feet the color of clay, and there ain't no white man with blue eyes and blonde hair with woolly hair and feet the color. That's not a thing. So it's a marketing campaign that needs to be unraveled. Even in corporate America, the large majority of us have been, the one or two black people in the room our entire careers. And somewhere along the line, you felt almost uncomfortable, hiring other people of color. That's what was powerful about what we did back, in the 90s with the Bad Boys and the Rockefellers and the fashion brands. Like, we had these companies and they were unapologetically black. The reason why I, migrated to be a part of the entertainment business is because I came to New York and I went to an event and I saw every artist that I ever heard on the radio performing live, and the event was being thrown by young brothers and sisters that looked like me, dressed like me, talk like me. And to me, that was like an aha moment for me. I was like, this feels like home. This feels like where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be spending my time. So I worked for mostly all black businesses and black entrepreneurs my entire life until one of those companies got bought by a big corporate company, big publicly traded company. The sad part is I got paid way more money working for the white guy, way more money. And so I started to think that that's what it was. But then I realized that the currency is not always money. The currency sometimes is the impact and the example that you could set for young people. And so I know that my kids grew up watching me, and as a result, they wanna own their own situation. They wanna own their own business. My son, I have a 24-year-old son who's actually coming to spend a month, and he lives in LA. He's coming to spend a month in New York with his auntie Gwen, because she's part of the ecosystem. She has a restaurant in Brooklyn called Krabby Shack, and he's coming to basically be an apprentice for 30 days and learn all of the formulations. And he's doing a Krabby Shack food truck in LA. But it's all about ownership. He's not thinking about like a job he could get. He's not trying to figure out how I can work for somebody else. And the fact that you guys have the ability to not only have the access to people that can give you the information, but also access to people that would invest in you, right? Like, your parents are all doing way better than our parents were doing. And so, what you guys are capable of, like, is, and it's a lot of pressure. and you probably don't even feel it because you're so naturally built. You've been given the skill set. I know all three of your parents, and they all are rock stars. Like as people, as human beings, and I'm sure the fact that the way you're showing up right now on this screen warms my heart, because I know that you guys are the byproduct of love and intellect and intention. And what that turns into, I'm super excited about. I'm so excited about the young people. I've been spending a lot of time, the COVID has you home more, and then you maybe extend your bubble a little bit more to families that you love and appreciate. And what warms my heart the most is just to see the beautiful brown brothers and sisters, man, the children with the hair and the comfortable in your skin and unapologetic, and not, you don't even feel none of that. Like, I never felt like I was less than nothing, because we made sure that you know your worth as a human being, and that's our job. And we're going to give you the tools to be able to do your job. And when you guys get in the driver's seat of this thing all the way, I'm super excited to see what that turns into. That's like, I want to live for as long as I can, just so I can watch it. I want to watch this movie. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it for today. Join us next week as we continue this conversation. Deuces.
This podcast is brought to you by Hailstorm LLC, produced by Jalen Hamdi.